Hello, this is Dylan Moore with IRINO TV coming to you today. It is Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, and I am welcoming back Ben Garcia, who is U.S. Congressional Candidate for Washington District 4 and is running against Dan Newhouse, who has proclaimed himself to be a never-Trumper, and we're all pretty sure he's a RINO. But we had to get Ben back in here because we've got a very recent story of Ben literally running towards the bullets. No joke. There were bullets, and he moved toward the bullets. And so, Ben, thanks for coming back on, and jump right into it. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, Dylan, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Your constituents that listen and audience, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Well, it was a Cinco de Mayo event weekend in Sunnyside, and I had two planned Cinco de Mayo events to attend. One was the Sunnyside one, and the other was the one in Pasco, Washington. So I had my team, and I did my round, talked to some of the vendors down in Sunnyside, and as I was talking to them, I was telling them, well, you know what? Please take a look at me, vote for me. I appreciate your support. Well, I'm getting ready to actually leave the event. And as I'm getting ready to leave the event, I hear about 8 shots. Pow, 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 pow. And I got to tell you, I was looking at the police for a moment. And
are you guys going to do something? So, one of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we just all kind of took a moment. It's hard. We know what we hear gunfire. I'm a combat veteran of Iraq. Mm-hmm. And it is, I'm familiar with gunfire. It was just hard to believe that this amount of shooting or shooting at all was taking place at a fair event. Mm-hmm. And so I ran toward the shots, and I wanted to be able to go ahead and help and assist the police in any manner, and God forbid that if it was anybody that was actually a victim. So I heard 8 shots, and it ended up being 5 people were shot.
Oh my God.
And one was actually at risk of losing his life, a 35-year-old victim. And so as I ran toward the shooting, I saw an officer rendering aid to the first person that I saw that had got shot in the face. So it was a young youth who had gotten shot in the face and had been, but my understanding, had been possibly a gang member. Mm-hmm. And so there were 2 rival gangs, apparently. That's what I believe what was happening. And then I started running toward direction of someone that to me seemed, it just seemed like he might be part of the issue. So I was getting ready to run toward him. Then I heard some frantic yells on the phone. And as I looked to my left, I saw the individual calling 911, wanting help for his brother-in-law. So I honestly thought from where I was running, I changed direction, my course, and I thought maybe I'd been shot in the chest because his back was flat on the ground. You could see that he was in a lot of pain, and I ran toward that direction, got on the phone, and I told the police officer where we're at, and asked them if they could send immediate assistance as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And after I got off the phone, I started rendering aid to the individual. And I asked him, and his name is Travis Miller. He's out of Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And I can say that because he definitely is very displeased with the current laws today, and I'll explain that into more detail. But I asked permission, can I go ahead and render you aid? And I'm going to go ahead with your permission and start doing medical treatment. And I learned the medical treatment from my time in Iraq. So I was very fortunate. I never had to use it to save anybody's life before. But you do all this training over a period of time. As you get qualified in your MOS, then you get qualified again before you go ahead and leave for Operation Iraq Freedom. So he's on the ground. I take off my T-shirt, and I used my T-shirt as a tourniquet instead of my belt.
Real quick, where was he hit? You said you thought he was
hit
in the knee?
He was hit in the knee.
Got it.
Yes. And apparently my understanding is the round was a 45. So he had two events occurred. Number one, the round that was shot from the weapon actually hit a steel rail before it hit him. Mm-hmm. So it snapped the rail in half. One of those little metal bars.
Right.
Fencing. Snapped the rail in half and then lodged right into his knee. Now, I wasn't sure whether he was bleeding internally. And what I mean that is the main artery.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to do was apply the minimal amount of pressure. One, that he wouldn't bleed out or go into shock. And two, that I wouldn't make the tourniquet so tight that he would lose his lower extremity, the remainder of his leg, you know. And obviously, the most important thing is saving his life, whether he were to lose his leg or not. And so when I went ahead and did that, I continued to talk to him, got to know a whole lot about him. And, you know, he loved wrestling. And we talked about why he was there, how he was helping his brother-in-law, assisting as a vendor.
Mm-hmm.
And that I asked him, I go, well, what did you see? He says he saw 2 groups of 6 approximately, just young kids yelling at each other. And the conflict expedited greatly when it started leading to gunfire. So he said he just could not believe that he was shot. You know, he got hit, he felt warm, and that's obviously from the wound itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he collapsed down to the floor. And he was trying to apply pressure himself. And his brother-in-law, you know, anyone can react differently. But, you know, no one was rendering aid to him. And in all honesty, since it was the main artery, he should have bled out in about 2 minutes.
Oh, my God.
But just the fact that I had ran that direction, and it was about a 200-yard run, you know, ran that direction and found him. You know, I was very fortunate to be able to save his life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thanked me quite a bit. And, you know, as a combat veteran, I myself was a wounded warrior, so assigned at Fort Lewis. So I've gotten to see a lot of my fellow veterans, combat wounded warriors, that have gone through severe post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injuries, to loss of limbs, to many other aspects of their challenges. So we actually had a very long discussion on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We had about a little over a 2-hour discussion. I wanted to know that if he needed to talk to somebody that can relate to his situation, to please feel free to give me a call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that we certainly don't want to see this situation happen anymore. And the laws right now that are in place, we're really starting to see the true effects of how these laws are processed through the legal matters.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, you know, my understanding is they could not even do a gun residue test on any of the possible shooter's hands.
So
really
out of the 12, 2 groups of 6 kids that were there, you can't take the ball and say, okay, let's check everybody's hands to see who has gun residue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, there's a lot of issues now that we're seeing legally that, you know, technically these youth were free after 6 hours.
That's
they
insane.
all lawyered up. Yeah, they all lawyered up. You know, we had SWAT. SWAT came down. They had Yakima County Sheriff's Department. They had Yakima SWAT. They had Grandview PD. They had Sunnyside PD. You had State Patrol, all at this scene after they believe.
And then they walk. Yeah.
And then they walk. Yeah. You know, and I got to tell you, my city, the city that I was born here in Sunnyside, Washington, they are extremely upset, you know, and we have to go ahead and change these laws.
Well, and then is this a law thing? Is this a district attorney thing? Like, I mean, do you know specific? Is this something where the district attorney could have done something, but it's just a total dork and said, "Nah, forget it"? Or there's literally a law that's like, we can't do anything because that's the law.
You know, basically, my understanding, it's a law thing.
Yeah,
it's basically the law. You know, it's one thing saying that you can't talk to youth, but it's another where you're at this point, from what my understanding is that they can't even do a residue test to see who shot the weapon.
Even if they are a suspect.
Even if they are a suspect. I mean,
unreal.
How do you solve crime? I mean, here you look. This individual almost lost his life. He went to Sunnyside Hospital. They took him down to Richland. He went to Richland, and then finally Harborview. Okay. And in Richland, they believed they were able to save his leg, but there was still other issues occurring, so they ended up transferring him down. And who pays for all that? You know, I mean,
the people who are angry about the fact that these guys weren't arrested. I mean, they were arrested, that they got to walk in 6 hours.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And the thing about it is, all, you know, they basically are lawyered up, and what a lawyer's can tell them? Be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say a word. They don't know who the shooter is. You know, and we've got 13-year-olds, teenagers here. Right now, the people that are responsible, believed to be responsible, allegedly responsible for the shooting of 5 people. And that's not including the fact that this individual was a victim at 35, just working there. But you had a 7-year-old that was shot in the leg. She collapsed in Safeway, you know, telling her mom and dad, you know, basically I'm shot. And, you know, I mean, I'll tell you the difference between Iraq and home here. You know, you're in a combat zone, you're getting mortared, you got IEDs, you're always worried, you're always looking at your situational awareness. But here at home, you can go to Safeway, you can go to the movies, and you believe that you're just going to come back home.
Right.
You're just going there to have a good time, coming back home. And now it hit our small town. You know, and I got to tell you, the moment that I heard the shots, I did not know the situation that was occurring. I didn't know that there were gang members that were mad at each other and decided to pull out a weapon. You know, that was one possibility. But the other possibility to me was that there was just somebody mad at the world that just wanted to kill people. And irregardless, you know, I responded because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, as a combat, I'm always a soldier. I'm not wearing the uniform. I'm retired military, but you've got to want to help your community. And in this case, you know, I was able to save a life, and that person is able to speak for himself, and he'd love to be on the show, and would love to go ahead and say, you know what, this isn't right. You know, my life very well could have been taken, and we basically have a good idea who the shooter is. And
supposedly nobody can do anything.
Basically, nobody can do anything. I mean, you even got to worry about the statute of limitations.
Oh my God!
You know, because this is not murder. You know,
what is it? What is the statute of limitations? 6 hours or something now? I feel like that should be several years of a statute of limitations.
Yeah, I mean, look what you did to the community. All the revenue, all the planning, especially after having 3 years of COVID, you got some type of norms coming back to our community. And I got to tell you, the effect of this shooting affected the shutdown. Vendors that probably spent about $2,000 in food, all these vendors.
Suddenly they're closed.
Lost money. They lost money. Okay. The safety, the loss of the safety of the community right now in Sunnyside, it's gone. You know, not only that, but even outside our city, there were other events that were celebrating Cinco de Mayo, like a rap group. They were told that their license was being, their permit was being revoked.
Because this happened at Sunnyside?
No, this happened in the Lower Valley.
No, I mean, the permits are getting revoked because of the shooting in Sunnyside?
Yes, because they're afraid that there may be more gang shooting happening. So who won? The gang members did.
Of course, that is very, very clear.
Yeah, I mean, the law is protecting them because they're underage, you know, and they should have the law. We do have a process of our justice system. But when you take away the justice part and you take away the fact that they're committing adult crimes, you know, I mean, right now, if I didn't save that Travis's life, he'd be dead. And what about his family?
Right.
What about those He's a victim no matter what.
He just happened to be super lucky that you hurt him.
Yeah.
Right.
That I was able to render aid, on my training.
So
and I got
Ben, I just wanted to interrupt and ask. So, I mean, this was a clearly tragic event, which is you've described very, very well. You ran toward the bullets, which I think is a huge thing. So now, can you tell us how you're going to run toward the bullets in Congress to fix things?
Well, I'm already proving that. Already proving that. I mean, first of all, I've served I'm the only one that served their country in combat.
Mm-hmm.
That's running. A lot
in
of
your
them
district.
are
yes,
in the 4th district. Number 2, I've got 2 lawsuits right now against the illegal gerrymandering of the 15th district in this state.
Mm-hmm.
And those are going to the U.S. courts, under the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Clause.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in protecting our Constitution 100%. It does no good to have racial gerrymandering happening when it's against our Constitution. Look, me as a Republican and others need to do more to involve all people into these elections and need to listen. We need to, number one, we've got to give reason to vote for us. But I want to see whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. I just want to see you involved in our voting system, period. Mm-hmm. That is the only peaceful means in which our voice is heard and that we can be represented. That has always been a goal of mine, and I've worked on that for many years, whether I was part of LUGLAC or others. But I will tell you why we do have case precedents and showing why we should have a successful lawsuit in the end with the 15th district. Because in 2006, LULAC went to court and went to the Supreme Court.
LULAC?
And
Sorry.
LULAC, League United Latin American Citizens, took Governor Perry in 2006 to court. And went to the Supreme Court. And there was 2 cases where they believed that benefited the Republicans in racial gerrymandering in Texas. Mm-hmm. But here is the situation where I believe, and my lawyer obviously believe, that is the same case happening here, except it's being used by the Democrat Party. Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to protect our Constitution. Certainly, those Democrats that are in the lawsuit, their lawyer has stated that they want to see ranked choice voting. And that is something that is commonly used in California, state of California.
Right. And
that is certainly, we do not want that at all. And I do not support ranked choice voting. And I'll give you a clear reason why. Number 1, we have 6 candidates in this 4th congressional district race. I'm the only Latino. Mm-hmm. If we have ranked choice voting, that means you'll go to your top 3 till there's a winner pointed out. Mm-hmm. Well, that could very easily be Dan Newhouse. That could very easily be Lauren Culp. That could very easily be Jared Sessler. They wouldn't even know who Ben Garcia is. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is just a big setback. Take a look at who I am as an individual. Take a look at my merits. Take a look at why I'm running. And take a look at why I'm the most qualified there. And I believe that when you're choosing a Republican and someone that wants to represent all the people and wants to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of the 4th district, you'll find out that I'm that candidate. I've lived here all my life, and I don't want to talk ill or anything bad, but you could take a look at Brad Clifford. Nice guy. I like him, but he voted to go ahead and give Jay Inslee emergency authority. And 1,800 people are unemployed in this state because of a decision he made. Mm-hmm. Not just him alone, but he supported that. If Ben Garcia makes that vote, they're laughing at me today why I'm even running. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a more specific question. So, let's turn this into more of a national front, because obviously that's the position that you're running for. Right. So, if we compare, and this we're getting on the topic of domestic terrorism, if we compare some protesters that attempted to sway congressional decision-making over the 2020 election have now been in jail with no due process for two and a half years or what year is it?
January 6th.
Yeah.
January 6th.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, a year and a half. And then if we compare that to the Roe v. Wade decision that got leaked, and we've got protesters showing up to Supreme Court justices' houses in order to sway their decision-making process, and absolutely nothing happens to them, what the heck is going on here? How do we comprise these two extremes?
We have selected justice. That's what we have today. What Bill Clinton did when he first got elected has greatly affected our justice systems. By him, when he first got elected, he gutted out all those Republicans out of the justice system. Mm-hmm. And when Trump got in, they wanted to see that happen also. And in all honesty, it should have happened. These are the things that have occurred. You've got too many political appointees that determine which laws to apply to and to who to apply them to. And that's been throughout much of our history, especially when you take a look after World War II. That the type of selective justice that you want to see has been applied for many years. You could go ahead and take a look at, first and foremost, we've never had our Supreme Court justices have a leak in that nature. It's never happened before.
Correct.
Ever. And for the FBI, shame on them. Shame on them.
What, for not following up on it properly?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't care. They go, you should never use. No. You know what? You go ahead and you charge that individual and you fire them, because those things are to be kept from political biases. Mm-hmm. Those Supreme Court justices are lifelong memberships as long as they want it. They are there to be above the politics. Now, we know that they're chosen politically, but once they're chosen, they need to be able to uphold our Constitution and not be worried about protesters on their front lawn.
So what's the solution to this? And I mean this specifically in the capacity that you're running for. What sort of legislation or something else? What can Congress do?
They got the legislation. They've got the legislation. They just need to be able to enforce the law. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go ahead and take a look. They probably have the legislation there where their homes are at, that they're not supposed to be there. I mean, these justices are supposed to make sure that they got the appropriate security so these things don't happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm not for, look, you have the right to protest by all means, but go do it over there at the justice's office and front doors. Mm-hmm. Don't be doing it at their home.
Well, and I mean, specifically, if they choose to do it at their home, why aren't they getting the same treatment that the other side of the political aisle receives? Like you said, it's selective justice. So let me make the question even a little more specific. So I understand, obviously, the laws are on the books. So, like, you can't just go intimidate a public official. I don't know what law it is, but I know that's out there, right? Yeah.
Look, you and I aren't necessarily going to get close to the Speaker of the House unless you're in the House of Congress,
right?
House of Representatives.
So, I mean, is there something that can be done? Whether that's legislation to make sure that the legislation gets followed, or is this down to appointments, or how do we fix this ban?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got to make sure that the justices are protected, because they have a lot more say so in many ways than our presidents do, because those are lifelong terms. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that they have the appropriate protection, and we also need to make sure that that those protection, I mean, Secret Service needs to be involved in there, and they've got to be able to make sure that they're protecting our justices. I didn't think we'd have to worry about that issue. And like I said, we've never had a leak ever in the history of our court system. The highest court of the land, our third tier of what makes our government work is threatened. There's only 9 of them.
Right.
And it's completely threatened. Threatened, when decisions don't go some other person's way. I mean, take a look. Let's say that they do go ahead and say that it was bad law on Roe versus Wade. Okay. How does that still affect it in Washington? We still have a blue state. Mm-hmm. You're still going to be able to practice what your state says. It's just saying state rights. That's what it's saying.
If we're going to talk about facts, that doesn't matter to these people. That doesn't matter to these people at all. I doubt they know anything other than whoever they listened to said, go attack. And they said, okay. And they went and attacked. They don't need any details like you were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And shame on our federal systems, our DOJ, for not doing more to protect our third tier of justice. I mean, you've got the legislative branch, the judicial, and the executive. And for you not to protect what is our smallest branch of government, shame on you. Mm-hmm. Shame on you in leadership. Shame on you, Joe Biden. Shame on you on the House of Representatives for not doing more and not speaking up about doing something more when the smallest branch of government is under duress. You just want to go ahead and send $40 billion more to Ukraine, because you're more concerned about other
Tell me that you would have voted no on that.
Yeah, no. You know what? I will tell you this. As a combat veteran, I am extremely upset about our foreign policy from Afghanistan to where we're at today. Mm-hmm. If NATO would have done pre-staging like Russia did, we would not be in this situation. And I got to tell you, I really reflect back on what Eisenhower said, the military industrialization complex. Because, we just finished, with spending $8 trillion in a combination of Iraq and Afghanistan wars. You've got I'll give you an example. An $8 million building that was made for the Afghan female police complex. $8 million never used.
Both wars are just nothing but stories like that, aren't they? It's just an unending list of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
You take a look. I mean, what made Japan, after the treaty was signed with Japan, the surrender treaty, we rebuilt it, okay, after the war was over. You've got all these millions to billions of dollars and eventually trillions on how you're doing on these two wars, private companies making money left and right. The 5 biggest arm dealers happen to be the 5 UN no votes. And what's the UN's role? All these years, and there's no accountability for being able to be successful?
I think the UN's role is to be a joke, honestly.
Yeah, well, the UN's role is to go ahead and make money. That's the UN's role. Make money for their certain politicians that they want to make sure gets the money. Let me ask you, in my lifetime, has the world ever had any peace? I mean, isn't that what the UN's about?
Well, here's the thing that really cracks me up about the UN is that the UN's got this charter of rights, right? Free speech and health care. I think they got health care on there. You got the right to a job and you got a right to safety, blah, 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 whatever. And then it's not the last one, but it's the second to last one that says, oh, by the way, none of these rights matter if we say they don't matter. Not in that specific language, but basically, we can, if the UN says we're not going to do that right now, then that one doesn't count. So that's why I was saying that the UN is a joke. Like, oh yeah, here's all these amazing rights to take care of everybody, unless we say so. Then it doesn't count.
Most people probably would agree with that. For me, I think we really need to take a look at what our role is in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to reflect on what is actually working and not working. You take a look at NATO right now with Ukraine. Why aren't there more troops from NATO going out there and taking the lead instead of the United States?
NATO's done that from day one.
Yeah,
and I guess it's our fault because we keep doing it.
Yeah, we keep spending money.
Yeah,
your money, the taxpayer money. Right now our country's in trouble, fiscally and military-wise. We only have a little over 1 million in our military, and the majority that's logistics and support. You can fill up all the combat troops in Safeco Field.
That's scary.
Yeah, it should scare people. It should scare people to see how small our fighting men and women are.
Mm-hmm.
The fighting men in a combat role fits in Safeco Field.
I got another
and our
question.
enemies know this.
I wanted to bring it back home here before you and I both just rant about how stupid Ukraine is and how stupid the last wars have been. So right now, let's talk about parents and schools. Right now, parents all around the country are getting labeled domestic terrorists for showing up to school board meetings.
Mm.
What will you do to make sure that parents can participate in school government in their children's upbringing without being labeled a domestic terrorist?
Well, first of all, we want to ensure that the parents have first rights over any form of government, any form of education.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to love their children more than they do. I have my grandchildren today. My kids are grown up. Let me tell you, if they have an issue in school and their mom and dad ain't going to go and fight for them, grandpa's here to fight for them, or grandma. Either one, we're going to support our grandchildren 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And for the school and the education department think that they have more rights over our youth? No. And so I want to ensure that parents are given 3 weeks notice in writing and by the phone if any type of medical procedure at all or any counseling is needing to be done, that the parents are involved in it and given notice, unless that student is 18, because at 18 we consider that individual an adult.
Right. Would you be against either sponsoring a law or a resolution that would recognize parents as the primary stakeholders of their children's upbringing?
Law. I mean, I would make an amendment.
I'll definitely take that. But if the Republicans take the House and the Republicans take the Senate, they have to deal with the fact that Joe Biden is still the damn president. And with a resolution, it's weaker, but you can get around that. What's that?
Yeah. Well, we can get 2/3.
Yeah.
I think right now, look, we're going to take the House and we're going to take the Senate because of poor Democrat decisions, and we have to go and we're going to have to really talk to our peers and tell them that this is the time and this is appropriate time for this law and amendment to be passed.
Well, and
this is water breaking.
It is water breaking, and there's something to be said about this, because I do know that there's at least one state, it was North Dakota, passed this resolution, and multiple communities have passed, or multiple school boards have passed it in Washington State. 2 school boards have made it policy, not just, hey, we resolve that parents are primary stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yakima and Ferry County have made it policy that parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's upbringing.
Yeah.
I forgot what my point was.
But there's a few other things I'd like to see changed. And
go for it. I hate it when I wind up like that and then
no.
It just drops right out of my head.
Is I want to see competition in our education system. So that's charter schools and homeschooling. Now, Washington State spent approximately $18,000 per student.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to see the parents receive a good portion of that money if they want to homeschool.
That's great.
because part of the breakdown that we've had to the situation we had in the shooting is that, usually you have both parents working and no one's there to be the parent that they need to be for that child, the role model, the support system. And in some of our communities, I believe that if we were to go ahead and allow the parent to say, you know what, my kid can still join sports in that school district,
but I'm going to teach him at home.
I'm going to homeschool. Yes.
Yep.
Or whether it's band or music, whatever that may be. But I'm going to homeschool, and I'm going to do that because I believe I'll do a better job than what's out there today.
I remember what I was going to say. Sorry.
Okay.
Going back to the 2/3 majority. So this is what in North Dakota, this happened specifically when this was introduced, is that even if a congressman or a representative or senator is against it, they can't actually vote against it because they don't want to be seen voting against parents as primary stakeholders of the children's upbringing. So I think I agree with you that even if some Republicans and the swath of Democrats want to say no, they can't be seen saying no.
Yeah, and even if they want to, that's fine. You might just get elected out.
Right.
Which is great.
Perfect, yeah.
We don't want you anyways. We don't want you anyways. If you're against parents' rights, then you need to just move over.
Right.
Take a look how this would affect Okanagan County. All right. If you have homeschooling, you've got your one parent there. You're able to go ahead and let's say you have 3 kids. Well, you're making low income wages with those kids. You're having a very sound education system at your home. You consider it a business.
Sorry, let me interrupt. You say you're making a low income. You're saying because you're sending the money back to the parents.
Right.
Because there's 3 kids and you got 3 kids worth of money getting you some sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. I follow.
Right.
Yeah.
So your internet, your computers, your books, all resources for home, but that's business. That's a tax write-off too. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to go ahead and make and have competitive children and have these kids learn morals and respect. And that is so going to make a huge impact with our way of life. Look at how things have just gotten. Look at the drug abuse. Look at the introduction of drugs to alcohol to all these other aspects at such a young age. And where's all this kind of coming from? Whether it's from the family or it's from the school or the community. As a parent, for my kids, I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and homeschool.
Right.
Now let them join sports. But I know I'm not going to be giving my kid drugs. I know I'm not going to be introducing them to alcohol. I know that, you know what? I'll be selective on the friends they've got, and I want to know who their parents are. Mm-hmm. So it offers more choices because we can't take for granted that school is just everything it should be and the right thing's going to happen, because it's not.
Well, it's not only not, it's so far gone from anything remotely close to what people think should a vaguely healthy person thinks would be normal.
First got started. Yeah.
I
mean, you're wanting to go ahead and call parents domestic terrorists. The same ones that are paying your position, the same ones that are out here working to provide for their family. I'm sorry if I care for my child, but you're going to call me a domestic terrorist because I don't want them mandated to take a shot. I don't want them mandated to wear a mask.
No, you're going to be called a domestic terrorist because we called your daughter a son. We called him a boy. And if you try to change her mind or his mind, you can be charged. And now you're a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
That's the level of insanity we're at right now.
Yeah. And so the school needs to be challenged. Look, I live in a rural area, and we've got YV Tech here in Sunnyside. It's been here for well over 10 years. And in a rural area, it offers, a way to learn how to weld, how to make a way of life and get certifications. Usually you have to go to a technical school after you get out of high school.
So you're not working in the orchards for your whole life?
Right. And you're making an incredible amount of more money per hour to provide for your family. And I went over there. I saw these kids weld and trophies that they were putting together. They're welding these trophies. They're doing incredible artwork. Just because you think of a weld could be boring. No, they're doing artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that they're providing, not every one of them, all these students, but a good portion of these students are doing just as well as those adults that are out there in their professional field.
Mm-hmm.
That is a blessing. But you know what? Because the Department of Education wants to see dollars go to another district, they're shutting it down.
Oh, man.
So, you know what? It is about money. It's not about the student. You always hear, care for the student. Really? Care for the student? So why are you taking away parents' rights? Care for the student. Why are you taking the opportunity for competition? Care for the student. Why are you taking away a technical field that's going to make a difference in our rural area? Care for the student.
Why are you too busy talking about gender issues and sexual orientation to kindergartners? How is that caring for the student?
There's three answers to that. Money, money, money. That's what they care about. Vote, vote, vote. Give them the money and we'll determine how your child's going to be for the next generation. Well, let me help you, education field, and I do support it strongly, but let me help you. It needs to be changed. Take a look at our last generation and how their skill level is. And take a look why you're finding so many in the professional field. This last generation, so dissatisfied because everybody got a trophy. Because after 8 months of staying in a professional field, they're not happy and content because they made a difference in the world. And because everybody was told they were special.
Well, I would take it one step further than that. Is everything is outrageously expensive. And the whole just go to school, get a job, and then you can buy a house and get married. That's gone. I mean, we're not even on the same planet as that anymore. And I mean, I'm of that generation that's affected. And we look at our parents' generation and we go, I can't do that. Well, like you had an opportunity that I don't have access to. So
a lot of employers are looking at older folks.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm half a century old, and they're looking at older folks because we show up to work. We're not ghosting.
Mm-hmm.
We're dependable and we work hard, and so, I got to say, I know that I can be competitive in the job field for another, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Despite my age. And so, what sad is though, we've lost a generation that a great number of them are not content.
Even though I added that point, I do agree with you there that I would say roughly my generation and later are utterly lacking in skills. And when I say skills, that's like welding, for example, or even to the point of how do you show up to a job on time?
Yeah.
Right? Even if you hate it, if you hate that job, that's fine. Show up on time, do better, and get a better job. Right?
Yeah.
So you put something on your resume to get a better job, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and
a lot of my generation
difficult.
doesn't get that.
Yeah, there's so many frustrated employers out there right now that are saying, you know what? We hire this person, they don't show up. We hire this person after 8 months. We ask, are you happy? And they're like, no. Why? Because I'm not making my impact in the world. And you know what? It comes down to having that family support early on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know early on in life, you may fall and you may continue to fall. You may have 2 left feet and continue to fall. But you have a support system. Not everything's supposed to be easy in this world. And I know as a grandfather, I want to give my grandkids everything I can. But I also know I need to teach them to work.
Mm-hmm.
I did that with my nieces and nephews. When I was working for the federal government as an underwriter, I was working weekends in the cherry fields. So I would get them. I'd get up at 4 a.m. We'd go get our ladders. We'd start picking cherries. And Uncle Benny, but the point is, you need to know how good you got it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to respect your mom and dad, knowing how hard they work so you can play basketball, so you can go to these tournaments, so you can have the fun that you want as you're going through your school experience. But there's a sense of reality too. You need to have some skills, and you need to know that life is not easy and that you're going to fall. Some of the greatest people that have affected the world or our United States failed more than they succeeded.
I think that you could say that of anybody who was successful. For example,
yeah.
If I say the name Babe Ruth, what do you think of?
Home run king, greatest player all time.
Well, he was the home run king. You know what he's still the king of?
SWAT.
Strikeouts. He's still the king of strikeouts. But nobody remembers him for that, right? They remember him for the home runs, even though he doesn't hold the record anymore. So, yeah, to your point, the big winners, or the big successful people, they fail a lot, but they just keep swinging.
They do.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison kept failing to finally hit gold. With the light bulb, and that says a lot, that says a lot when you succeed. But if you continue to fail, then it says other things too. The guy was just crazy, but he succeeded, Abraham Lincoln, he had a mental breakdown. He almost, you couldn't even imagine that we're looking at the 16th president of the United States had a mental breakdown. And yet he's the one spiritly that led America into healing again. To bring
that we remember putting the country back together again. Yeah.
Yeah, putting our America back together, because it should have continued to crumble after that, in all honesty. When you look at the loss of life, then you take a look at the wounded. Many people were amputees. Everybody's family was affected. And, you take a look at a family argument. Some people may not talk to their family member for years. This was not a family argument. This was loss of life. And for the United States to come back together, if Vegas was there at the time, you know what the odds probably would have been to say that the United States was going to survive?
Pretty low. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the point, that we look at one of our greatest presidents. As a matter of fact, I have him as my number one president. And I have George Washington too. And I got to tell you, I have him as number one because when it was all ready to fall apart and should have, he healed it. And look where we're at today, And so that's why I have him as number one president. And he had a mental breakdown. So you take a look at some of these folks that had incredible challenges. And yet somewhere they found inside their spirit, inside who they were, whether it was a belief in God, whatever it was that drove them, they impacted this world. And, we had our Lee Iacocca's, we had our T-Bone Pickens. And Lee Iacocca was, with Dodge, and he was rebuilding Chrysler in the 80s, a failing company. His experience with Ford, he was supposed to be washed up as an executive. And what did he do? Comes up with the minivan and comes up with a few different things. And all of a sudden, the automobile industry's changed. Look at T-Bone Pickens. When the oil fields in America went dry, he was buying up all these dry oil fields. This millionaire. Well, during the Trump administration, before he passed away, he got to see what fracking could do. He made his money, and he made a wise choice. He waited for technology to catch up. See, we have to fail sometimes in order to do great things. And as your congressman, I'm not going to save Chrysler. As your congressman, I'm not going to save Ford. As your congressman, I'm not going to save any of those industries, whether it be Microsoft or any of them. I'll let them fail. And you want to know why? Number one, the ones that take it into shorts are the stock purchasers. The last ones, they never get back anything of value. Number two, there's a Lee Iacocca there in America waiting for that Chrysler to fall down again and say, you know what? I'm going to buy it as it goes through the bankruptcy process.
Fix it.
And I'm going to rebuild it and I'm going to make it better, but in my new vision. Because your old vision was dinosaured out. You know, let these banks fail. Let them. We'll go ahead. We'll look in their files. They'll go through bankruptcy court. There's properties in there that other companies are going to buy. Or how about the small mom and pops that see an opportunity and say, you know what? I'm going to risk it all and I'm going to buy that property. I'm going to buy it from that failed business and I'm going to make it survive. That's what America's about. Except no, all these politicians, you know, I'll give you Dan Newhouse right now because he's part of these committees. Where do you think his money comes from? Doesn't come from local citizens. It's coming from largely these companies that are out of state with these committees that he's in.
Like Blue Energy, maybe?
Where their next contracts are coming from.
Maybe like Blue Energy. I heard that he was the sponsor on getting Blue Energy in with its foot in the door. These are people who build windmills, right? Green energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's so green, everything doesn't work anymore because there's no electricity.
You, the Democrat Doug White, and during our debate in Yakima, he was talking about solar, all this. Don't get me wrong, I like it, except one thing. I don't like that you got 7-year-olds going into the mines and not coming back and dying. Matter of fact, I don't like that these young kids that are trying to feed their family, they're 7, go into these mines and don't come back for lithium. You know, they made movies about blood diamonds.
Right. Why don't they do about blood lithium?
Why aren't they doing
blood
it
silicon
for that?
Yeah.
Right. I go, you know what? Let's pay a little bit more for the battery. But I don't want children going there and losing their lives. You know, I'm not about that. You know, I'm here to represent all the 4th District. Like I said, I want to see more minorities voting in this. I will represent everybody as I have before. You know, whether it's been in Iraq, I love this country of mine. It's a beautiful place. But sometimes we need to see failure. All this stuff that, we got to put on the backs of the taxpayer. All these savings and loan scandals, all these other people that are allowed to keep all their assets. You know, you take a look. For example, people get mad because President Trump filed bankruptcy a few times.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had 5 bankruptcies out of the 500 businesses that he had. Big deal. But continue.
Okay. Right. You know, they look at that. But here's the thing. Where are these educated people coming from that are successful, you know, that do these laws, whether it be Harvard, whether it be Walden, whether it be these Ivy League schools? They go into government. They go into government to do regulations. They go into government to make sure that these corporations stay strong corporations through bankruptcies, through all these processes. But who pays for it? The taxpayers. You know, it's not new that President Trump went there. He's just very pro-America, but he understands because he's with all these elites. You know, so I'm not trying to knock. What I'm saying is he went to the same school they went to. And these schools are send unelected people to do these laws to represent them, to represent their interests, to represent these companies' interest, you know, and that's what needs to change, the monopoly in politics. It really does. We need the average Joe, the average one that understands what it takes to get their hands dirty, the average one that's going to have the backbone to stand up to these folks and say, I'm no longer playing your game.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
want
right.
accountability.
Ben,
Believe me. Yeah.
we're getting into it on time here. I think it's a good time. No, you don't have to apologize. It's a good show. But before we wrap it up, I just want to know, was there any... We covered the shooting, which was the big thing, and we talked about domestic terrorism and, you know, what's it going to take to fix this country, and what's your role of running toward the bullets. Is there anything else that you wanted to end on before we end the show?
I want to let you know that I do support the blue. I support our Department of Justice. We need to reform it, and we need to get people that are going to ensure that we're able to prosecute anybody, whether it be, you know, impeachment of the President of the United States and others, whoever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Justice needs to be done. And you're not going to find someone stronger or better that's going to pursue that and pursue the needs of our 4th Congressional District. I am running God Family Country. You can look me up, vote bengarcia.com. But I have proven to make a difference in my community. I've done over $200 million in loans. Over 1,000 people are homeowners because of the programs that I helped with the federal government. And I've made an impact in my community, locally, to overall state, and when my nation needed me to wear the uniform in combat.
That's great. And
my life has been about service. You know, I've worked as a union laborer, whether it be in Seattle or Hanford. I'm a blue collar guy who's just fortunate enough to have an education from Central Washington University. I've been in the school system. All I have to do is teach to finish up my master's in education. So I understand lesson plans. I am well-rounded, the most well-rounded person with actually work experience in running right now for U.S. Congress. And I am a proven product. And I won't make bad decisions, but I will fight for your freedoms and for your children's freedoms. That I will fight for.
Excellent. Well, Ben Garcia, U.S. Congressional District 4 out of Washington State, is running for Congress, and it was a vote for, what was the website again?
VoteBenGarcia.com.
VoteBenGarcia.com. This has been Dylan Moore with IRITA TV, which you can find at irita.tv, and you can find our list of social media there for regular updates, which is, as I always say now, no longer YouTube, because we've been banned off of YouTube. So go ahead.
Wow.
Head on over there to check us out, and head on over to Ben's website to give him support. And Ben, thank you again for coming on, and merry campaigning.
Thank you very much.